All right, so maybe you failed, right? Maybe you failed so hard you lost more than you ever thought you could lose. Maybe the mountain that you thought you were climbing, the mountain that you had struggled for years, made it maybe halfway up. You were just randomly kicked off the top of a cliff, right? Found yourself back at rock bottom, wondering how the hell any of this happened. Maybe that fall got you all confused, got you baffled about how it even happened. Maybe it got you scared to ever start climbing again, thinking, what's all this for? If I can get halfway up and have something come over me or mess up in a way that means I start all over. Well, let me tell you, man, if you pursue it the right way and keep the right perspective, everything really does happen for a reason. And maybe you were drop kicked off that mountain because that wasn't the right mountain for you. Maybe you got to find yourself a new mountain, right? And maybe the people that you were traveling with just couldn't come with you on that journey, on that new mountain, the one that you really want. So you can't hold yourself back. You can't compare yourself to where you were at the past, the view that you had seen along the way on that other mountain, because the thing is if you're starting at the base of this new mountain, well, it's going to be a hell of a climb before you can even have anything to compare to your previous one, right? And so that being said, don't compare yourself to the past version of you, unless it's as of recent, like yesterday. You can compare yourself to yesterday, but if you've fallen far, don't compare yourself to where you were 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago. Simply look at where you want to be tomorrow. Look at where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and pursue every day. Like that view that you get to see tomorrow is all that matters. Let go of what was and pursue what can be. I think that when you do go through a major failure or a dramatic loss, man, the things that can do to your mental stability, the faith that you once had in yourself, it can be detrimental if you let it. You know, maybe it's held you back now for a few months, maybe even a few years. The thing is it's every day is a brand new one. God's blessed us with the ability to go to sleep each night and wake up with a brand new start, a brand new experience all around us, a brand new Rolodex of accomplishments that we must achieve, right? A whole new list of things to conquer. And if you look at that, look at the opportunity behind it, and see that it's a blessing and not a curse, that can make all the difference. It really can. So maybe you've been holding on to this idea, this dream, whether it be a business venture, a relationship, whatever it is that you may have lost, and you've been holding on to it, thinking, man, maybe if I made this change or did this or that, I could get it back. Dude, at some point, if it's been made absolutely crystal clear that it's never coming back to you, then maybe there's a reason for it. And maybe you have to let it go. Let it go so that you can move on. You have to let that old mountain go. You may have loved that mountain, but there's a bigger, more beautiful mountain in front of you. You just have to look around. Recognize it's there and recognize that the view on top of that mountain is just as, if not more beautiful than the top of the other. Pursue a new mountain. sometimes, if you're kind of like me, sometimes you like to jump around from one thing to the next. You're kind of a jack of all trades, master of some, right? And so your dreams should be so big and all-encompassing that it allows you to jump around, move around, tweak things. It should be all-encompassing so that you can, let's say jump from one thing to the next. If you've got interest in fitness, you've got interest in the outdoors, you've got interest in knitting, you've got interest in film creation. Well, guess what? You can make something that includes all of that, right? Like, your dream has to be big enough that you always have a purpose to pursue, even when you get bored or tired or burnt out from one of them, right? Okay, you got burnt out with knitting, so now you start filming. You start filming your experiences in the outdoors because you like film and you like the outdoors, and then maybe when you start feeling like knitting again, you can be knitting in the outdoors making a film. Obviously that's a silly representation, but you get what I'm talking about. Your dream should be so big and so all-encompassing that it allows you to move around and always have something to pursue, but keep it as part of the same conglomeration, the same dream, if that makes sense. Anyways, this is just me rambling a bit, talking about how, because that's an experience that I've recently went through. If you've seen some of my past videos or not, I mean, I went through a short time in my life where a few major mistakes, shortcomings, and mishaps, they knocked me off a cliff in life. They paved a way from a real beautiful dream that I was creating down to the absolute bottom of a pit, the deepest pit that I've ever experienced, emotionally, spiritually, physically, even mentally, for sure. But at some point in time, you realize that you've been sitting in that pit for long enough, and at some point you're gonna have to start climbing out. No matter how scary it is, no matter how hard it is, you're gonna have to climb out of that pit, and no one else is making that climb for you. In fact, a lot of people are depending on you to make that climb so you can throw a rope back down, because there's a lot of us at the bottom of the pit and not enough people at the top throwing ropes. And hell, let's be honest, there's a lot of regulation and all kinds of other stuff that stops some people that could absolutely, they could throw thousands of ropes down. But there's so many different regulations and everything else. There's powers in this world that like to see you at the bottom of the pit. They like to keep you there, because down there they can control you. But the thing is if enough of us can find it within ourselves to make that climb out and start throwing 1 rope, 2 ropes, 5 ropes, well, I guess that's the idea, right? That's the problem. That's why there's so much censorship happening. That's why there's so many different regulations, is they don't want that balance of people who climbed out throwing ropes to really overcome the people at the bottom of the pit, because that's when they lose control. When enough people wake up to what's really going on, that's their fear. Some of you know what I'm talking about. A lot of you do. That's the thing about this whole new reality that we're in, right? What's happened over the past few years. The cool thing is about it is actually due to the censorship, due to the almost absolute idiocy of the situation. It's opened a lot of eyes. There's a lot of people who now see what they didn't see before. How much manipulation has gone on, and how much collusion and corruption there really is. And of course, nearly all of us only have a part of the picture, half the picture, different puzzle pieces from different puzzles, and we all think we've got the full picture. But while it's complex, it's really pretty simple. The fact that people who have power will come together and they will collude in order to get more power. It's everybody, every single person on earth conspires at some point, right? I just bought this car. I conspired with the salesman. We both benefited, right? It was a conspiracy. Right? We came together and did something in a way that made us both happy. And it just happens that when you have tons of power and tons of influence and everything else, and I mean tons, not like a YouTuber, like the owner of Google, that kind, you know? Like I own all the YouTubers, that kind of influence and power. Well, when you have that kind, usually conspiracy or collusion or corruption, it doesn't mean purchasing a vehicle, right? It doesn't mean that you get money so you benefit, I get a car so I benefit. It means you say, you know, it means colluding with politicians. It means whatever you want it to mean, whatever you see it meaning, right? It could mean you tax the public and manipulate it in this way because you have the power of the mainstream media, and then you take that and you somehow give that taxation to one of my nonprofits or my businesses. I mean, this happens all the time. Or to my other country. I mean, it's pretty simple. But anyways, I'm really wanting to start a podcast, guys. I need to get the studio up and running. I think I have a lot of insight to share. A lot of things that I want to talk about. Of course, you have to be careful, right? Because these people that we're talking about here, they happen to own everything. But nevertheless, you can find a balance, I think, where you can spread truth, spread understanding, spread awareness without going off the deep end, without being completely disrespectful. And that's what I hope I can do. And I want to build a strong community around survival, self-reliance, freedom, and fitness. I think these things are all very important factors in our lives as individuals, in our lives as families, in our lives as communities and neighborhoods. Because, I mean, it's pretty clear to see that little tweaks in life, little tweaks in economy, little tweaks in anything almost, can actually play a major role and have a huge effect on the country, right? Or on the world, really. And I think the stronger that we are as individuals, as families, as neighborhoods, and as communities, well, the more likely we are to sustain and maintain our freedoms. And that's important to me. I don't want my kids to grow up in, you know, in a world that's more hellish than this one. I don't want that. I don't think any of us do. So it's time to stand up a bit, increase our own willpower, our own strength, our own desire to help others, and start using our talents and our abilities and our strengths in the best way that we possibly can. Because I don't think you want to be on your deathbed looking back and saying, man, I was born so gifted with so many different talents, so many different abilities. If only I would have pursued this one the right way, or if only I would have cultivated this new skill so that it could match up with this talent. You know, you don't want to look back and say, if only, or I wish. No. You want to be there, you want to look back and you want to say, I did it. I did it. I lived up to the person that I wanted to. No, I wasn't perfect. Because none of us are, right? But I tried my best. Or hell, I mean, I don't think any of us can even say that. Not really, right? But you can say I gave it hell. And that's what I want. I want to be able to look back and feel like I was able to make the difference that I wanted to make. You know? So if you guys made it this far to the video, I actually really appreciate it. I'd love if you left me a comment just saying, hey, I made it 15 minutes into your video, and give me some insight onto your life, your dreams, your aspirations. I want to connect here, you know? And of course, my channel's small, I'm just getting started. But it's something that I can stick with. It's something that I feel pretty passionate about. And depending on where the future goes, where we find ourselves in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, I know that if I don't stop, if I just simply continue to pursue it, I'm bound to find other individuals who kind of vibe with my message. And that's who I'm looking for. So, also, if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button, man. I'd really appreciate it. Obviously, it helps the algorithm, all that jazz. You know how it works. Yeah, leave me a comment. Thanks, guys.